Welcome to another episode of the Tower 26 B Race Ready Podcast. I'm Jim Linsky here with Coach Gerry Rodriguez. Coach, how you doing?
You jump-started on me. I wasn't quite ready yet.
I got too much to talk about. We just got to get at it, man. We just got to get going. Obviously, the intro wasn't that smooth, wasn't that clean. I can redo it, but I think we're all right.
We're good. We're good.
All right, so we're going to get right into this, buddy.
You got a little extra.
We got a lot to talk about. David Wiseman over here every day. He's training for Nice. He's got me fired up. He's insisting that I go to Nice. I got nobody to watch the kids, though, Jer. So I'm putting it out there on this podcast today. If you want to come watch my kids for 5 days in September, anybody who's available, come watch my kids. Hint, hint, hint.
Been there, done that. I've launched my two kids.
So listen, I'm going to talk about how are you, by the way?
I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
You coached early this morning. You're up and at 'em at 2 a.m. You're heading down to Santa Monica. How'd it go?
All good. Great morning. Good seeing everybody. You know what? One of the beauties is, Jim, by the way, I've just been there once a week, is that because I'm only seeing the athlete once a week, you get to see, if you see somebody every day, these little marginal gains you don't pick up in each session. But a week goes by and I realize, for instance, Beth, this morning, I could see the change from last week. It was great to see.
Yeah, and well, at least she's working on it, right? But okay, so I spoke about you. I asked how you're doing. Let's talk about me for a second.
Of course,
do you mind?
Always.
So here's the deal.
No. Would it matter if I mind?
Yesterday, okay, this is not sport related, but it's actually this is what a good host does. He ties things together. Yesterday, I'm driving. I left at my house at 8:30. I dropped Maddie off of the bus. I'm driving through Topanga. I get a warning that I got a flat tire popping up, right? So I'm halfway through Topanga. I'm downtown Topanga. I'm going to Conan's house to run with him. And luckily I'm in downtown Topanga, so I have service on my phone. So I park, the tire's going down. It has the sensor, right? I have a 2017 BMW X5. I bought it at CarMax, super cheap deal a couple years ago, right? So I park, I call Conan, I say, hey, I'm maybe 10 minutes delayed because I can change a spare like that, right? I'm like NASCAR. I go beep, 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 off, on, done. About 10 minutes late, expect me. I go in the back of the car, Jer. Look, I'm ripping I can't find the spare. I look it up on YouTube. Where's the spare for an X5? I feel like a nudnik over here. I feel like a Barney. I don't know how to change. I can't find a spare in my own car. I'm looking underneath because sometimes you have to let it down.
Oh, yeah.
I look on YouTube. No spare in a 2017 X5. BMW didn't put it in there.
So
are you aware these companies aren't putting spares in cars?
Well, I used to have one of those cars, and I had a spare in mine.
This is dangerous. I am calling BMW out. You are providing a dangerous automobile here. They didn't even put a spare in there when they made the car.
That must be an update. I guess a downgrade from the model I had.
Now, here's how I'm going to link this to this episode. Be prepared. You always got to be prepared for worst case scenario.
Absolutely.
Am I right?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Because we're going to talk about being prepared for race start, race ready, as we always are. But we're going to go through the semantics, the details. The semantics, the right word?
Yeah.
The detail of how to best be prepared as you approach race start. From the steps it takes to get in the water. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But before we get to that, what did we talk about last episode?
Well, we went into race tactics, right? Skills and tactics, how to acquire them, what to do, when to deploy. I think we gave 2 or 3 real-life examples, questions we get asked as coaches by our athletes, such as, should I draft? Is it beneficial? What if the person is going crooked? What do I do? So we gave a handful of examples of commonly asked open water questions regarding tactics.
Yep, and 2 episodes ago we did it on the detail of sighting, and we actually revealed some things that we've never spoken about, right? Breath timing and all that kind of stuff. And that episode alone, I've gotten so many comments. Hey, I never thought of it like that. You guys really, really made things clear on that episode. So thank you for all the feedback you guys have been giving us. We keep, because it's a podcast and it's forever young, or was it forever green?
Yeah.
Evergreen, you like to say. Yeah. We keep getting comments on that episode about I didn't realize this, I didn't realize that. So if you haven't watched that sighting episode, go ahead, Joe.
Well, no, to your point, evolving as coaches. I've been teaching this thing for 40-something years, and I never added in that one segment, and I'm realizing there's something that's missing. Yeah. In the sense that some folks were not getting it. And as a coach, you know this. If something you're asking an athlete to do, they're not doing it well, there's 1 or 2 problems. Either you're not communicating effectively or you got an athlete problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I removed the athlete problem and go, wait a minute, let me deconstruct how we're delivering the message. And I realized there was a step that I wasn't putting in and how we provided the education.
Yeah, especially with that. The thing that you really honed in on that one was the breath. When to breathe in, when to breathe out.
When to breathe, most importantly, when to expel.
And we see these athletes, especially the newer swimmers, when they come and swim for us. I'm sure you see a couple every week in Santa Monica. The first thing you want to do is hold your breath. And if you're doing this while you're sighting and then you're trying to breathe in and breathe out, you sight, holding your breath, you breathe in and breathe out all at the same time, it's just going to be a downward spiral to inefficient swimming.
Yep.
And that's where the hyperventilation kicks in. So if you haven't watched that episode, that's 134, 2 episodes ago. Then we give some great race tactics advice on the last one. What are we going to talk about on this one?
Well, let's go through, I think, sort of the day of the athlete, for the athlete, from the moment they show up at the venue, what should they be doing in preparing for the beginning of the race, for the swim segment, presuming you've taken care of all of your bike and run stuff already, meaning you've done your surveillance on the bike course and the run course, and now all you got to do is deal with, make sure your bike's racked up, you're checked in, all of that. What do we do? What products you should be wearing or using, and what does a warm-up look like? How do you tackle especially the first segment of the swim?
Right.
I mean, we'll talk about the whole thing, but a lot of detail comes into the first segment.
So I show up at transition race morning.
Yeah.
Is that where you want to start?
Sure,
Show up
we
at
can start
transition
there.
race morning. You put your nutrition on your bike. You get your running shoes out. You get your race belt, your hat, everything you're going to wear, not swimming. But then you pull your wetsuit out of the bag or whatever you're going to be wearing. What gear? How should you preemptively prepare for the conditions that you're going to face on that day?
Well, we have a couple options again. We sort of have this sort of tree diagram again with, let's make some assumptions. You did your homework and the water temperature is right on the cusp of wetsuit or no wetsuit. So what should we do?
You should have both. You have both options.
You have your wetsuit and you have
swim skin.
Swim skin, right?
Yep.
And so the race director is going to let you know if you can wear your wetsuit or your swim skin.
Right.
So let's go down the easier path or actually the more challenging path of wetsuits, because now you have several options of wetsuits, right? You've got sleeveless wetsuits.
Yep.
You have full sleeve wetsuits. And you just have floaty pants, what we call floaty pants, right? Sort of neoprene jammers, right?
Yeah.
What do we see? We see most folks wearing full sleeve wetsuits. I would say probably, guessing, 5% of the field maybe in sleeveless.
Yep.
And we see almost nobody in jammers. So I'm going to share some data that we did in some testing.
Ooh, I like this.
Many years ago. And where we tested this on an elite athlete. So the data, and it was only one test. So an equal sample of one only, so not good, not by no means a large enough sample size, but interesting to know. We did a series of 100s. And as you know, Jim, when we test these wetsuits, we do 5 100s. It's a blind test. The athlete doesn't know the times that they're doing. We keep all the data, then we reveal the times later on, and that's how we differentiate about which wetsuit you should choose regarding speed, meaning which wetsuit is the best wetsuit for you to wear on event day because it produces the fastest swimming for you. So with this elite athlete, we tested sleeveless wetsuit versus full wetsuit. So let me back up. First, we identified which wetsuit was the fastest on him, which manufacturer worked well, and within the manufacturer's lineup of high-end, medium-end, and high-end in sense of pricing, medium pricing level, low pricing level, we identified which one was the fastest for him. So we had that selected. Then we went with that wetsuit, long sleeve, a sleeveless version of that, and a floaty pants or jammers.
Yep.
Shockingly to me, there was no variance between jammers and full sleeve.
No way.
None.
Wow.
Now, at the elite end.
Yeah.
Now, the elite athletes who have swim backgrounds, their benefit from a wetsuit is significantly less than anybody else.
Right.
They already have good mechanics. They swim well. So a wetsuit is going to provide some assistance from the sense of a little bit frictionless. Their body position is going to be slightly corked up higher in the water, so a little less resistance or friction for them, right? So they already sit at this elevated level. Now they're going to be popped up just a little further in a full wetsuit. But shocking to me, the jammer which is only covering hips and thighs, right? Which now, that's where your biggest bone structure is, but also your densest muscle mass too. The jammer versus the full, no difference in speed.
Unbelievable. Wow.
So for you elite guys and girls out there, whether you're at the USA national level or trying to make an Olympic team, or you're a professional athlete racing your 70.3s or Ironman races, I would start testing. Because swimmers, you guys that have swim backgrounds, you swam in the collegiate system, you don't like wetsuits when you put them on initially. You go, it doesn't feel good, you can't really feel. They don't have this feel for the water. Here's an opportunity to have a feel for the water. If you're not gonna have any benefit from a full wetsuit, and you could wear a jammer and swim at the same time, maybe you consider wearing a jammer.
Yeah, and especially
a jammer meaning a neoprene jammer.
We're seeing warmer water temperatures across the board. I remember when I first got into the sport, I mean, you wouldn't go to a race where the water temperature was above 65. Every race you went to, it was, unless you're in, South Florida or something, cold water. Now it seems like water temperatures are going up, and there's more and more non-wetsuit swims, or right on the cusp of wetsuit and non-wetsuit swim. You're wearing a full wetsuit in those conditions, that's recipe for core temperature going up and overheating. So it's good to be comfortable in the whole variety or array of your arsenal of tools at your disposal.
Yeah. So now, don't take my word for this. What you have to do, you and your coach, you have to get that tested. You would take your full long sleeve wetsuit, test it over a series of protocols that we can supply that to you guys, what we use at least, how we do it. And then you would just then take the wetsuit off and then put on the jammer only, neoprene jammer, not just a regular jammer, right? The whatever the
the floaty pants, right?
Floaty pants is what we like to call them, and do the same test again and see what the results are for you. But there was no meaningful difference. Meaningful in the sense of we're talking about 1 or 2 tenths of a second difference.
Yeah,
and I was shocked.
But, and I speak to athletes all the time about this. I say, okay, go wear your wetsuit in the pool. And they look at me with, like, I have 3 heads.
Right.
Go wear it in the pool. Wear your wetsuit in the pool. If you have a sleeveless wetsuit, wear that in the pool. Wear your floaty pants in the pool. And that's where we can do these testing.
That's where they have to be done.
Where you have that stable environment.
They have to be done in the pool.
So test it in the pool. You don't have to wear it for the whole session. Wear it for 15, 20, 30 minutes. Then you could take it off and finish the rest of your set with it off.
Absolutely.
But don't feel like, oh, I'm going to be the odd man out here wearing a wetsuit in the pool. That's where we do the testing.
Right. Warm up with it and then go through the test, and then you can take it off after.
So you figure out in your bag, we're back to transition.
Yep.
We're back to race day. You know which is going to be the best for you, right?
Yep.
You say, okay, we're on the cusp. It's going to be a warm day. I have my sleeveless wetsuit on. Goggles. What are we going to do with goggles?
That's a good one. So you have, the way I look at goggles, you have 3 options now. You used to have typically 2 options, now you have 3 options. I guess you have 4 options, no goggle.
Right.
There's still some old timers that don't wear goggles. So we could throw that in as an option. So you don't have to be burdened with, are my goggles ever going to come off or get kicked in the face or whatever it may be. So you decide which goggle to use based on if you have sunny conditions, right? Or if it's inclement weather where it's super overcast, gray-like. So if you have you're always going to have, or you should always have, 2 pairs of goggles, one that's tinted or smoked, right? In case you have brilliant sunrise and a lot of reflection off the water. So you want something to manage that heavy glare, right?
Yep.
And then you have to go to the other side of it where now it's completely inclement weather and very almost dark, right? You don't want a dark pair of goggles. In fact, when you have a dark pair of goggles in those types of morning races, you can't see anything.
Oh, it's like torture.
Right. So that's where you need a clear pair of goggles, or you need something that illuminates, the blues or the oranges that illuminate, right?
Yeah, I've made this mistake so many times. I've worn the wrong pair of the goggles on the wrong day, and it just makes for such a miserable swim out there.
And, it's more miserable when you use the dark goggles in inclement weather as opposed to... Right, you really can't see, and you're at this loss. You're just sort of, So have the 2 pairs make the decision on event day which one you're going to use, and if you're indecisive, try both. Go warm up and try both.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. We're going to do the warm. We're going to talk about that. But
right. The other option now is the form goggle, right? That we have here. The form goggle. The thing with the form goggle though is, let's show this to you guys. The form goggle has mirrored lenses. So this, in effect, has a slight tint to it, right? So I have not tested these on a personal level for in inclement weather versus sunshine versus reflection in open water. So I don't know how they
Yeah,
manage.
it's definitely something you want to practice with plenty of times because it has the numbers in the screen that you can see through the numbers, but you want to make sure that you're extremely comfortable because you don't want to get halfway through the swim and just be totally frustrated with what's going on with your goggles.
Right, but the benefit, to your point, that's regarding seeing through, but the real benefit of these goggles is they now have a navigator in them, right?
Yep.
So it does help with navigation that no other goggle, to my knowledge, has. So the fact that you have this navigator, and they are legal to use, correct?
Yeah.
Then you should practice with these and you should use these.
Yeah.
Just make sure you can see well in them.
Yeah, and let's talk. So you figure out what goggle you're going to use on race day. You got to make sure that you're comfortable with the goggles on. A lot of athletes take them and they cinch them down really strong on their face. Then they get halfway through the swim and it feels like their eyeballs are being sucked out of their sinuses
headache.
or their head.
Yeah.
You get this massive headache. Make sure that they fit you right and you're not just being nervous and cinching them down as hard as you can because it's going to be very uncomfortable as that swim goes on.
And some folks would say, hey, you know what? I'm afraid my goggles are going to come off towards the end of the end of the swim because especially if you're at a beach, I'm into the surf area and there are waves and I've lost my goggles before and I don't want to lose a pair of $200-300 Form goggles.
Yeah.
So here's the solution to that. Right before you hit the surf line, you pull the goggles off around your neck.
So you put them back up as you get through the surf.
Right, you just rip them, pull them down around your neck so that you can't lose them. They're not going to come off your neck, right? Mm-hmm. You exit the swim without goggles for the last 30 meters.
As you're coming in, gotcha.
Yep. And then once you're in transition, you just take them off.
Yeah.
This way you don't, because we've heard, well, I don't want to lose my goggles. Well, the solution is, I raced a lot back when, in the 80s and 90s. And at first I raced without goggles. And then I started wearing contacts. And then I started putting my goggles on, and always towards the end of the race, I'd rip the goggles off around the neck just to finish the race.
Yeah.
Because I don't want anything bothering my finish.
Yeah.
Any chance of it getting messed up.
Yeah, no, you don't want to lose those goggles either. That's like
regular
goggles. It's a couple $100.
Yeah, a regular cheap pair of goggles doesn't matter, but the Form goggle, I don't think you want to lose.
Another thing, and this is maybe my own preference, but I don't. They'll say, oh, put your goggle straps under your swim cap, right? I can't do that because it digs into my ears right here. And I've done this before in racing. I've done this in practice. And same thing as having the goggles too tight on my eyes. That thing starts digging into the top of your ear, that strap, because it gets pushed down by the cap. It's just as frustrating as if those goggles were sucking your eyes out of your eye sockets. So if you're going to do that, make sure you practice it and you don't have big Dumbo ears like these ones, and you can sustain that little bit of pressure on the top of the ears.
On many of the goggle straps, as you know, Jim, they're split now. They're two. It's a single strap around the sides, and then the back it opens up into two straps, two smaller straps. So you can place one right above the ear and the other one higher up, and then put the cap on. So test it. Your point is test it to make sure that you're going to be comfortable with it. But that is another way of trying to make sure your goggles stay on towards the exit of a race. So if you get hit, or they come off and not losing them, especially now that you have these much more expensive goggles.
So you get your wetsuit on, you have your goggles that work, you head down to the water. How soon before race starts should you head to the water?
Well, depending on what race restrictions provide on you, right? But if you can, 15 to 30 minutes before race start. But I even think there's a step before that. And the step before that doesn't get done by most folks. Now, Ironman does a good job at races about having buoys now lined up approximately 100 meters apart, right? And they even have some of them numbered.
Yeah, they're all numbered. They're all numbered. They're numbered from the orange ones on the yellow ones on the way out. They're numbered 1 to whatever halfway through, and then the numbers start again with the orange ones on the way back in.
And they go reverse, right?
I don't think they count down. I think they count
They still count up?
Count up again halfway through.
Okay. So they're helping you, so you know they're staggered every X number of meters, X distance, and the same color. Well, that's Ironman races. Other races, that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
You don't know much about it. It's not standardized, I guess, is what we need to state about other races. So your job is course surveillance. Prior to getting in the water, prior to doing any warm-up, it's course surveillance. And what does that mean? Basic. What is the direction of the course I'm swimming? And let's make a simple example. It's straight out, right shoulder turn, Straight out, let's make it 50 meters out, right shoulder turn at the first buoy, parallel the beach for, almost half a mile, right shoulder turn back in, right shoulder turn again. So you have this sort of elongated flag
Sounds
course.
like a familiar course. I know this course.
Basic course we do almost every week on our beach work.
This is the Santa Barbara Triathlon course.
Or the Santa Barbara Triathlon
happening
course.
August 23rd.
Which is
The
almost
swim director right here.
Yeah, many races, typical flag course, or 2 loops of something, right?
Right.
But the point is, you need to know the exact course, and you need to go out and this needs to be done pre-event rather than when the race has gone off, the gun has gone off. How many buoys? Count them. What are the colors of the buoys, especially the turn buoys versus the non-turn buoys? Are there different colors or different shapes?
Yep.
Because race directors some have different colors, some have different shapes. Some don't. So you need to survey all of this. Then you need to know how many buoys are there. From the time you start to the turn buoy, was there a buoy in between? Let's say there was a buoy in between before the turn buoy, and you didn't do your homework. You might get to the first buoy and say, time to turn. And there's no turn. You got to go out to the other buoy.
Yep.
So your job is to do a complete course survey of buoys and their placements, and if possible, the distance between buoys. The more information you have, the more confident you become.
That's right. And, it looks a lot different when you're out there in the water. So do the work from the land, and then you'll have more recognition when you're out there swimming buoy to buoy to buoy, know exactly where you need to turn, so you can concentrate on the effort, and you don't have to think about where you're going.
And that's a key thing. You get to concentrate on effort / tactical deployments that you can utilize.
Yep.
If you don't know the distance between buoys, and you say, you know what, I want to make a surge to the next buoy, but the next buoy is 700 meters away,
Yeah.
well, that's a long-ass surge.
Yeah. But when you're right, though, on the land, though, it doesn't look as long as when you're out there, right? So you make that right-hand turn, and you have 500 meters to the next buoy. From the land, it looked like, it's not that long. When you're out there, like we spoke about in the sighting episode, and you have chop and you have surf, it looks a lot longer when you're out there. But the course hasn't changed from the time when you looked at it to when
And you can't see the buoy
exactly,
sometimes.
the gun went off,
Yep.
but that buoy is in that direction.
Correct. So know the colors of the buoys, know which ones are turn buoys versus non-turn buoys, because sometimes they're just directional course buoys, making sure you stay in the direction of the course, right? It's not a turn buoy, but it's just a directional buoy to help you navigate swimming straight.
Yep.
Know the difference between that buoy versus a turn buoy, and know the quantity of buoys on the course, and of course the distance between buoys. That's all of this is helpful.
And if there's a good race announcer sending you off, he'll go over all this beforehand too.
As you do.
You do. I don't want to pat my own back, but I mean the best. And I'm the best of the best. But if it's a good race announcer, they should do it.
Yes.
So,
And then
so you do your homework, head down to the start.
one more piece of
One
homework.
more thing. What
One more
else?
piece of homework. Currents.
Currents. Okay, looking at the current. Yeah.
We got to figure out,
part of it.
are there currents? Is there wind blow, right? So all of this has to be done before you get into the water. And most of us, including me, and I'm pretty darn experienced, are not going to know if they're currents. So, because many times you can look out and you can't tell, right? So let's look for the telltale signs. If there's opportunity to do this, this is one of the ways to tell if they're currents. If there's a boat that's anchored, it's a pretty simple one. If there's a boat that's anchored, the anchor's normally off the bow, right? Drops it down, anchor goes right down to the bottom. Depending on which direction the boat is facing, will tell you the direction of the current. So if you drop the anchor down, and the bow is here, and the rear of the boat is over here, then you know the current is going south.
Right.
Okay?
Very
so the
smart.
current is going in the direction of where the rear part of the boat is facing.
In the direction of the rear. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, the
Right.
direction that the
So why is
rear...
it so important to know the current? So we want to know the current. Why is that important for these guys as they hit the start line?
You're going to know... perfect. Most folks normally have to swim straight out to some buoy and make a right shoulder or left shoulder turn.
Right. Boom, boom, straight out. Right,
So you
here's
go-
the start, here's the buoy. You go straight out.
You go straight out to some buoy, typically, and then you have to make a turn, right? Well, if you have a lateral current going right or left, then that'll help you decide where to start. Or if you have to start in a certain spot, what angle to swim at.
Right. So if
Because-
I'm starting here and I got a current coming from this direction, right? Here's the start. Current's coming from right to left.
Yep.
My right to left.
Yep.
Pushing me. Here's the buoy.
Yep.
I'm being pushed this way. What do I want to do?
Yeah, you got to go all the way over to the right.
Right to as far to the right.
As far to the right as you
because
can.
as you swim out to this point, the current's going to push you this way.
Correct.
If you start here, you're going to be pushed way off that buoy.
You're going to be sent way south.
You want to start here, so when it brings you out, the current, as you're swimming, the current brings you to the buoy.
Yes.
As opposed to away from the buoy.
And obviously you're going to need a fair amount of sighting, and we'll get into those details. But the point is, learning or knowing if they're currents is a must.
No, totally.
So,
and then when you make the right-hand turn and you have a current coming in your face, you know why you feel like you're moving nowhere. Everybody's putting up with that current.
and you don't get discouraged, to your point, because it's like everyone's having the same adverse impact,
Right, totally.
right? So now, what if there's no boat? There's no way to tell.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Jeez.
All right? What do we do?
Mine just blows up. What do I
Boom.
do? I just run around.
Well, at every race course, there should be a lifeguard. There should be somebody in charge of overseeing the water. Just go to him or her and ask, is there current today, or which direction is it going?
Mm-hmm.
And is it strong, medium, light? Get some intel from the lifeguard.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing to do.
Smart. So
Okay.
figure that out. Figure out what your tactic is going to be as you hit that start line, and then stick to it. Don't get persuaded by everybody else who's standing there nervous at the start line. If you have confidence that your tactic is correct based on your homework that you just did, stick with it and have confidence that your execution is best and you know best, and don't just go with the herd and say everybody else is doing this. Even though I know this is going to be the best move, I'm going to go with everybody else because that's the easy way. And that's what I'm just laying out there. I'm sure you guys at home are saying, well, that's stupid. If I figured it out earlier, I'm going to stick with it. When you're in the situation and you see everybody and all the nerves are going, you say, no, forget it. I'll just go with everybody over here and forget what I thought, all that homework I did.
You call your own audible, and it's a bad decision.
But have confidence in your decision. Have confidence that you did the right homework.
We used this example with my wife in the last episode, where
totally.
I had her run towards me, right? Which took a lot of courage to do, because everyone's running straight into the water. I said, you got to run 30 meters over to me before you get into the water, because there was a strong lateral current.
That's what your wife did. My wife would say, I'd say, run 30 meters to me. She'd run 7 miles the other way. So I'm out of here later.
Well, I do a lot of things, but I don't give marriage counseling.
So, okay. I beg to differ. But, so we did our homework. We're going down to the race start. We're down there 15, 20 minutes early. What's up next?
Well, and we've done everything. We look for the boat. We can't see a boat. We look for a lifeguard. We can't find one. We have no idea if there's a current. Now what do we do? This is where the warm-up comes in, guys. You guys that don't like warming up, you're missing out on a whole lot of knowledge on a race course. You get into warm-up, and you swim out to that first buoy, and every buoy is anchored. There's the big fat buoy. You got a rope coming down, and the anchor is down. You just look at that rope on the water, and is that rope swaying to the right or swaying to the left? What direction is the rope leaning in? And that'll tell you if there's a current.
Right.
If the rope is straight and there's no movement whatsoever, there's no current. It's neutral, right? If it's tilted over to one side or the other, then you have a current.
Mm-hmm.
You have a body of water that's moving, pushing the buoy aside. It's fairly simple. Now, sometimes you may not have a current, but you may have wind blow. And that would cause the rope or the buoy to be leaning in one direction or another.
Yeah.
But that's also intel. If you have wind blow, surface depth, first few inches of the water, is being pushed along by wind in the direction you're swimming or against you. Again, more intel, so you know.
Right, so take all this into account. But the warm-up, so you get in for the warm-up, you're looking at the current, but what should the warm-up look like?
Always, if you can.
Are we there yet? Are we at that point?
Well,
something you want to hit before that?
I usually like to, Jim, give a lot of detail, because most folks get to your point, they get really nervous at the swim, right? Apprehensive, a whole lot of anxiety. But if we give them things to think about, a progression of steps to go through, it helps calm things down. So I like to know things such as, or help athletes pick a place to start ahead of time. So you have two types of starts now in races. You have these wave starts that Ironman's doing at a lot of races, right? 2 or 3 people at a time, sometimes one at a time. It's 2 or 3 every several seconds. But then there's still many, many events that have mass starts. So ahead of time, if you're in a mass start race, you have a decision to make. Do I start on the right? Do I start on the left? Do I start in the middle? Or some portion there within? Make your decision ahead of time, okay? What's going to help make your decision for you would be currents. Yep. You mentioned an example earlier. If you have a current going to your left, then you want to start all the way to the right. The current is moving in the left direction. You want to get all the way to the right so the current will help you push you along where the buoy is to get you towards the buoy. So you need to make these decisions ahead of time.
Yep.
Right? So now you've decided where you're going to start. I think the next step to do, if you want to be totally detailed, is how many steps is it going to take you to run down to the water?
How many steps to
How many
the water?
steps? Yep. Jog down to the water from the start line and go, okay, it's 20 steps, 25 steps, 13 steps, whatever it is. Have a pretty good idea. You hit the water, how many steps in the water before I get to swim? And it's all going to depend on the gradient, the slope of the incline of the beach, right?
Yep.
And for some beaches, as you know, if it's low tide, you could be running for quite a while in the water. It could be 8, 10, 15 steps, 20 steps. If it's high tide, it could be 2 or 3 steps, and then you diving in to start swimming.
Yeah.
Or there's surf. Then you got to make decisions. What do you do at that
Yeah,
point?
there was Oceanside 70.3 a few years ago when they had the ocean start. You had to run probably 300 meters out before you could actually start swimming.
Right.
So, but there's a lot of athletes who didn't go check it out and didn't realize it. So they're dolphin diving in ankle deep water, thinking that they're going to be swimming any second. They hadn't done their homework, and they didn't realize it's low tide. It's way out there. Those waves are breaking, and you're ankle deep, 300 meters out, and then you start swimming. You got to do that.
And that's the key thing. Have that intel prior to race start, which means you got to go warm up, right?
Yeah, and that's an extreme example.
Very extreme.
Just knowing that, hey, I can go 10 meters in, and then I'm thigh deep, and I can dolphin dive and start swimming, or I'm right away. It drops straight off, and I'm swimming right away. You got to know these things.
So you hit the water, you got 2 steps, 3 steps maybe, and then it's too deep. Now, what is too deep? So you got to get into the details. The devil's in the details, right?
Yeah.
What is too deep? Or when do I start to swim? What's the depth that I start swimming? Generally, if water gets to upper thigh, a little above mid thigh to upper thigh, before sort of your swimsuit area, if you're wearing briefs, right?
Yeah.
Start swimming. You dive off, you push off the bottom, you lunge forward, and you start swimming.
Much more hydrodynamic to be swimming than running through the water.
Exactly.
So as soon as you're able to start swimming, you want to start swimming. But I want to back up to the steps from the start to the water, because that's an important part of it. So maybe you'll count the steps, but just going over the path you take from the start line to the water, it could be 30 yards, it could be 3 yards. But I see it every year at the Santa Barbara Triathlon, which is August 23rd. Everybody can join. I'm going to say that about 15 times throughout this episode.
Thank you.
Just
I like
so
it.
we keep pushing it. There's still entries available, but it is filling up fast. So go to Santa Barbara Triathlon.
We're close. We're close to the.
Don't say that.
Well, no, it's in the sense people want to get in and do it now.
We're close. We're close. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were saying the opposite. I wasn't really.
No.
My right ear, I don't really have much hearing because I ran.
Is that why you put me on this side?
A wood chipper, exactly. I ran a wood chipper in high school, and I lost all that hearing in the right, or maybe it's the left. I don't know. But I start these guys off and I say guys because it's men. Women always do their homework, and they know exactly how many steps it is to the water. But these guys take off at the start like a bat out of hell, and inevitably every year there's probably 4 or 5 guys that just take a face plant right off the start.
Total face plant.
Because there's a dip in the sand or something that we couldn't straighten out, that there's a little divot or something. They hit it, boom, face plant. They get up and run back in, run in the ocean. They're fine, but that picture of them starting and taking that big face plant, that's what we use as the Santa Barbara Triathlon cover photo on the website the next year, so we embarrass them for an entire year. But what I'm trying to say is know the terrain from the start to the water too, because there could be divots, there could be bumps. You just got to be prepared for it.
Right, and many of these events, they start up on the berm, what's called the berm, the top of the sandbank, and then it's a gradient on the slope of the gradient depends on the beach. But you'd run in, so you want to your point, do a little dress rehearsal before you start off.
Yeah.
So now you hit the water, but in your warm-up, you would go into the water and you'd go, okay, how many steps? But along the way, you're surveying the bottom, because the bottom of the flooring of the ocean or the lake, body of water, because you want to know, is it silty? Is it rocky? Is it just sand? Is it soft? Is it hard? What is it? Because that's going to give you a decision point of, well, am I running or am I walking gingerly? Right?
Yeah.
Do I start swimming sooner because it's totally silty and I fall into it? I mean, there's a lot of terrain differences at the flooring of bodies of water, right?
Yeah.
So you got to do the homework. The worst, in my opinion, is when it's rocky.
Oh, the worst.
Okay,
The
you can
worst.
get cut, you can roll or uneven bottoms, you roll your ankle. I mean, there's a number of things. So you got to do the homework prior to the event. This is why you guys that don't warm up, big mistake.
Yeah, I went to a race in San Diego. It was right off of Mission Bay one year, and I didn't know the exit. I didn't know what the exit was. I just knew it was an exit
Yep.
to the finish of the swim, and it was a smaller race, so there weren't as many buoys. It was just a wide area that you could get out, and I just went with the closest area to the finish. I didn't go to where most of the others and the volunteers were.
Right.
I got out there and I sliced my foot on a barnacle right
Yep.
there. Right.
Yep.
It wasn't cleared out because it wasn't the path that all these other athletes were taking. I thought, oh, I'll just get out here because it's less swimming. I sliced my foot. I finished the race. So I actually probably won, I think I won the race, but I looked at my shoe afterwards. My running shoe was just full of blood, right? So the whole time was, so you don't want to derail your race by not knowing that terrain that's on the bottom at the start or at the finish.
Well, and the challenging thing is some events, many events actually have a different place where you exit than where you enter. And you may not have the opportunity, we certainly recognize this, you may not have the opportunity to explore both.
Right.
But at a minimum, you can explore the entry, because that's where you're starting. You may not have the opportunity to explore the finish.
Right.
This guy, I find a way to explore
No
both.
stone unturned.
Well, because
Rodriguez,
you are
we call you.
minimizing, your job's to maximize your performance, right?
Yep.
It's called a race. It's called a race for a reason. You spend a lot of time training, you want to do well. Maximize your opportunity for success. So find a way to know, many times the exit's going to be very similar to the start, right? The terrain at the bottom.
Yeah.
But if you have the opportunity, explore the exit also.
So you get in the water, right? And okay, we're in a lake versus an ocean. What's
Yes.
the difference in how we should approach once we start swimming?
Well, in a lake, providing, given an example scenario, there's no wind, it's fairly flat, you get to mid-thigh, you do a big push-off the bottom, and you start swimming. That's it. Start swimming. There's no surf, there's no wind, right? Start swimming, head towards the buoy. In an ocean, now you have, are there waves or no waves? And of course, if there's no to low waves, you start swimming. If you have surf, depending on the size of the surf, you're going to have to start a high frequency of sighting, because you're always looking for a wave coming in.
Yeah.
Small.
You don't want to get tumbled, right? You're looking for
Exactly.
that next wave that's coming. Waves come in, what, sets of 3 or 4?
Yep.
There might be go ahead. I'm stepping on your toe.
No, you're perfect. Continue. Oh, no, it's good.
No, so the waves come in sets of 3 or 4. You want to be sighting, knowing, hey, I might have sighted that wave and dove under it, but there could be another one coming. Not anticipating that, you get rolled back, then you have to fight the waves again. You get rolled back, you have to fight the waves again. So that's why you're saying you need to keep sighting frequently as you're diving through those waves.
Through the impact zone, there's a high amount of sighting frequency within the impact zone. Then after that, you can get to your regular 10 strokes at the most. We sight every 6, but 6 to 10 strokes sighting after the impact zone. But within the impact zone, there's a fair amount of much higher frequency of sighting. And the more waves you have, the more frequency. Then you get into, what do you do? There's a wave coming in, depending on the size. You can sort of swim through it if it's a pretty small wave. But any wave that's sort of a foot or higher, you got to dive under. And the depth of your dive depends on the size of the wave.
Yep. And because the bigger the wave, the more of an undercurrent is going to be associated with that wave or connected to that wave. So you got to get under that. If you don't get deep enough on a bigger wave, it's going to pull you back just as if you had not dove under it at all.
You spend more time in what I call purgatory, which is the impact zone.
And
you
you
just
gotta
sit there forever.
And you got to remember, with the wetsuit that wants to keep you on top of the water,
Perfect.
it is extremely hard to dive under waves. So you have to give it an extra effort to get under the wave when you have the wetsuit on, because the wetsuit wants to keep you up. If you let that wetsuit float you up as you dive down, you don't give it enough energy and the dive under, it's going to pull you up and you're going to get shot right back
With
again.
all this detail that we're giving here, there's a lot of detail here.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't get the message that you got to warm up,
Yeah, be prepared, baby.
This is basically
Boy Scout
saying
motto, be prepared.
you've got exactly. Be prepared. There are a lot of possible variables that occur just in the first 20 seconds from the time to start takes place,
totally.
right?
But you know,
And those 20 seconds could end up being 2 minutes if you didn't do the homework and you are caught in the impact zone.
well, like you said, the sighting is key to see the next wave. But then once you get through those waves, or even if it's a lake start and you get through that first initial race takeout effort, there's a chance you're going to be off that initial turn buoy or that initial buoy because of all the chaos of the waves or the chaos of the start. So once you get past that little that start area, you got to make sure that sighting is frequently, because like you're saying, if you're off and you just keep swimming off that swim line, it could be a minute, it could be 2 minutes to get back to that initial turn buoy or that initial sighting buoy that you're coming to in that first 300 meters.
Yep.
So you got to keep that sighting frequently, because in that chaos of the start, you could go way off course.
So let's back up. You're at the line, you've done your homework, you know how many buoys, you know the colors, you know the color of the turn buoys, the size of the turn buoys, and you know where you're going to start on the line, right, center, left, whatever it may be. The gun goes off, you know how many steps it's taking you to get into the water, you know when you hit the water's edge, approximately how many steps before you're going to start swimming, and you've already surveyed the gradient, that is the slope, from the time you hit the water, what's the slope like? And you know what the terrain is like. What's the bottom? Is it soft? Is it hard? Is it rocks? Is it shale? Is it, to your point, barnacles?
Barnacles,
Whatever it may be. Is it soft where it's so soggy that you would sink, almost quicksand-like, right? We have those silty lakes where it's just soggy. I mean, those things, you don't want to get caught in that. You want to start swimming sooner,
No,
right?
it's gross. It just feels like you're...
And all the little weeds coming up.
I had that feeling one time years ago, and I was in the ocean. I was given a learn to swim clinic in the ocean, and this woman was scared as could be. And it's the ocean, so it's got a sand bottom.
Yeah.
And I step down, and I feel like, oh, man, all of a sudden it feels like a lake bottom, that gross, soft, slimy feeling. And then, zam, I got stung by a stingray.
Yep.
So that's just my little aside. But, yeah, you don't want to be stepping. That's a gross feeling, that slimy lake bottom.
Yeah, that's another reason why let somebody go ahead of you. Let them clear out the stingrays.
That's what I said. I was doing a talk for the Long Beach Triathlon, which happened a couple weeks ago, and someone said, "Oh, they're gonna be stingrays." I go, "Are you the first one to go?" And they said, "No." I said, "You're fine. Everybody else will get stung by the stingrays. They'll clear the path. You'll be fine."
Exactly. So the message is, do your homework through a warm-up. Make sure you do a warm-up. And in another episode, Jim, we'll go through the details of what a warm-up should look like, but these are the things you're looking for in a warm-up. You're surveying, especially the entry.
Yep.
Now we've gotten through the surf, finally. We're 85 minutes into the podcast, and we're finally just get through the surf. But the point is, that's where the majority of work has to be done.
Yeah, exactly. Once you're swimming, you're swimming. It's just like you're in a pool.
The majority of work is done right here. Now you start swimming. Your job is, you know the color of the buoy you're looking for. You know approximately how far it is away from you. And the type of conditions that you have on event day, that's going to dictate your sighting frequency. So flat, lake-like conditions, great visibility, you can sight once every 10th stroke, which is the highest or the lowest frequency of sighting that we would go to. We never go above 10 strokes. For me, when I raced, it was every 6 strokes. That's my number. If you have adverse conditions, choppy waters, inclement weather, you're going to have to sight more frequently. That's the bottom line. So high frequency of sighting, generally 10 is your number, and you keep looking for your buoy, course correct accordingly.
And you've worked it into your stroke because you followed along with our direction that we filled you in 2 episodes ago, 134. So silky smooth, whether you do 6, 10, 2, it's built right into your stroke and you're completely comfortable with it.
Correct. Now, once you've entered the water, and before we started the sighting, one of the things I negated to mention was we talked about it in the last podcast though, you're looking for empty spaces to get into rather than having the fly effect where everybody just hones in on each other. You see 5 or 6 feet of empty space, you go towards that space so you have some freedom, because you want somewhat of a frictionless experience in the sense of you don't want to be clocked. No one hits you intentionally. It happens in tight quarters. So create opportunity where you have open space. So you've done that well. Now you're swimming. You have your reasonable high frequency of sighting to that first buoy. You get set up well. The next thing that we have to, Jim, that we want our athletes to make decisions on is when it comes to a buoy turn, are you going to be turning on the inside of the buoy, close to the buoy, or are you going to make a wide turn? Mm-hmm. You got to make that decision ahead of time. And I think that's a personality thing. And we talked about this in a prior episode, right? Yeah. Folks who want to really be aggressive, you're going to make the inside, take the inside position. Otherwise, some folks are going to just, the mic here, you're looking in, you can turn it really tight, or you can take a wider turn at the buoy. Your decision. However, you need to set up your position that you're going to turn way before you. Don't get 5 strokes before the buoy and say, okay, I want the inside position. That gets set up a couple of minutes back.
Yeah.
So a couple of minutes for some people would be at the elite level, it's 200 yards back, right? At the non-elite level, a couple of minutes could just be 80 yards back, 100 yards back. But the point is, you need enough time to set up positioning if you want an inside position on the turn buoy.
Yeah, and I was doing a talk for a group last week, and I said that exact same thing. And they're all kind of beginners in the ocean, and I said, prepare for a wider turn. You don't want to be in the whole mess of all these people turning on the buoy. It's the whole, like you said, the fly effect around the buoy. And there's a lot of people that come to the buoy and they just stop. A lot of newer swimmers just stop. Get out of that whole thing, but you got to, I said the exact same thing that you said. I said, you got to prepare for that wide turn. You can't just get to the buoy and say, okay, I'm going to turn wide. You got to be sighting, and as you approach, come to the outside.
And what happens, to your point, when they stop? Most folks go to breaststroke kicking.
Yeah, and then boom, right in the chest, right in the face.
So it's a heel kick, right? So it's not what you want. So do the setup, prepare for the buoy turn way in advance.
Yeah.
That's what we need
and
to
know
do,
what you're going to do. Go into it like we planned everything else. Go into it, okay, I'm going to turn wide on the buoy. Okay, I'm going to turn tight on the buoy.
Yep.
You might have to make a last-minute audible for some reason or another reason, but at least you have an outline. Okay, I'm going to be comfortable going wide on the buoy, and that's what I'm going to do.
Correct.
And stick to it.
And then the next thing, obviously, is you make decisions on drafting, and you make that ahead of time. Again, we went over this in the last episode. Drafting is a skill that we should learn how to do, but it's also a skill you have to learn, should you or should you not draft? And we went over the details of that in the prior podcast.
Yeah, that's the last episode. You guys tune in to 135 for a little more drafting info.
Exactly. So you're going to stay on the feet, and high-level summary, the faster you are, you want to be drafting. The slower you are, the more you want to make sure you're navigating properly, because slower athletes tend to generally have less of a skill of swimming straight. So that gives you sort of a broad stroke idea on if to or if not to draft. After that, it's all about navigation. Yeah. It's all about sighting frequently and navigating. Eyes on the buoy, eyes on the buoy, eyes on the buoy. You did your homework. What color buoy am I looking for? You did your homework. Is there a current? Is there a lateral current, a head-on current, or a current that's taking me? All of those data points will help you make decisions on, if you're in a straightaway, what to do.
Now, I get a lot of athletes who get nervous when they can't see the buoy. Like we said last episode, or the sighting episode. When you're in the water and that angle to the chop is right in front of you, there's not much you can see. And they get nervous when they can't see the buoy, so they keep stopping and looking, stopping and looking, stopping and looking. What's your advice for these athletes that they just get nervous that they can't see the buoy, yet they're in a mass of people moving in one direction?
I'm going to throw that back to you.
Keep swimming, guys.
Exactly.
There's all these other swimmers. There's people ahead of you. They're all heading in the direction of the buoy. Nobody's going, the buoy's to the left and China's to the right. Nobody's trying to go to China. Everybody's going to be going towards that buoy. So if you can't see the buoy, just sight on other swimmers who are swimming in that direction. Eventually, you'll get to the buoy.
And I would do that for a short period of time. The key is, to your point, Jim, I think we need to go through approximately half a dozen sites. Meaning, so we call this the lift, look, and breathe. Lift, look, and breathe. If you lifted your head and you looked, and you didn't see a buoy, that's not a sighting. That's a look, but you didn't sight anything. Then you do it again. Very next arm stroke, you do it again, and you still don't see a buoy. We got to try up to about 6 times, 5 or 6 times of look again, to give yourself the opportunity to be able to sight the buoy. At that point, if you still don't have a sighting, you make a couple of decisions at that point. Do I just swim with the people around me, or do I actually stop and make a navigational, try to make sure I see a buoy? Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a wrong answer.
Yeah.
But I would put a limiter on how long you stop.
Yeah. You don't want to just be stop. If
Correct.
It makes you comfortable, stop every so often to sight the buoy, know you're going straight, and that solidifies that confidence in your mind that you're moving the right way. Stop, occasionally, but you don't want to be, I don't see it, stop, look. I don't see it, stop, look. I don't see it. If you're swimming and you're sighting off another swimmer that's 100 meters up, 150 meters up, assume that those swimmers are going in the right direction. Eventually you'll get to that buoy. And maybe you'll be a little to the left, a little to the right, and then you can course correct when you do see it. But don't stop, start. That's just, that starting and stopping it's burning more energy than anything, but it's also major slowdown.
Yeah. So that takes care of navigation, drafting, and you hit your turn buoy, you're heading home. Let's make it a simple right shoulder turn. You're heading back to the shoreline. if you're in a lake, you don't have anything else to worry about for the most part. There's no surf generally, right? Unless you have huge wind wind chop. But you're just swimming in towards the exit. If you're able to survey the exit, again, you know what the bottom of the flooring is like. So that'll help you make decisions as to if it's easier to stand up or sort of gingerly walk through, or if you're able to run through. If there's surf, then we have a different issue to deal with, because if you're in an event with surf, like we may end up having surf at the Olympic Games in 2028 at Venice Beach, it's very possible you can have 2 to 3 foot surf. You've got to be then looking under your armpit behind you to see if there are waves coming, because you're going to have to make a decision to either take a wave, attempt to body surf the wave,
body surf it in,
or not.
Right.
One or the other. So, but you want to know if there's a wave coming. The last thing you want is not to know and then get waxed.
Yeah. You get the heels overhead, you get scorpioned, and then you get all kerfuffled.
And it can be dangerous if you're in low tide and there's surf. And if you don't know that there's a wave coming and you're in low tide and you get picked up and tumbled, the odds of your head hitting the ground first, very high. And that's a broken neck.
We don't want that. So be looking under your armpit for those waves coming. Either decide, hey, should I body surf it in, or should I stop, face the wave, dive under it, let it come over my head as I dive under it, just as I did on the way out, and then keep swimming towards the finish. But also know what the finish line looks like. Know, is there flags? Is there an arch? Is there orange cones? Because that's another thing. If you get tossed right to left in some waves, or the current is up from when it started, it's taking you right to left, you want to know what that finish line looks like, because you could be 200-300 meters out. If you know that there's orange cones at the finish line, or there's Tower 26 banners, or there's a big swim out banner, know what you're sighting to the finish line so you can make that straight point, right? What's the fastest way between 2 points? Geometry.
Straight line, baby. Yep.
Right? So you want to make that straight as possible to the finish line, so know what that finish arch looks like.
Exactly. So important. And when Jim says you look under your armpit, you're looking under your armpit, but behind you, because you want to see what's behind. And if you find you can't see that, or you're not well skilled enough to do that, you can flip over on your back and look behind. Point is, you are looking for surf or waves that are coming in, so you can make a decision to either stop and dive under them, let them go by, or attempt to body surf them. If you have any sort of skill, you want to body surf those waves in. You're going to go way faster than you can ever swim. You go way faster than you can ever walk or run.
Which is something you're going to teach our USA triathletes, right?
We'll do the best we can.
Teach those USA triathletes some good time gainers. Like I said, Sarah Haskin, right? Sarah Haskin, is that her name?
Yeah,
Sarah Haskin is the
former pro.
Former pro. I remember one time there was a race at Venice Beach, and I think I told this story on the podcast before. She was extremely experienced, one of the fastest swimmer in professional triathlon, extremely experienced in the ocean. She had a knee injury. So all the pro girls took off. They ran in like bats out of hell into the water. Dolphin dive. Here comes Sarah last, limping into the water, right? So 20 minutes later.
What's she doing a triathlon then? You can't ride or run.
I think she was maybe just doing the swim or whatever.
Okay.
But she was last one by maybe a minute. 20 minutes go by. First one out of the water, Sarah, right? She not only
She's a good swimmer,
used her swim skill, her swim strength to pass everybody, she was like a catapult on the waves out of the water at Venice Beach. She was extremely skilled. And she was out by maybe a minute and a half at an Olympic distance race before the next girl. So
that's where the Olympic Games are, and you can recall, because I think you in that race that year?
I was in that race, yeah.
Where the field was, I think it was 12-ish hundred athletes, I think, and 500 rescues were made.
Yeah, there's a picture that I can't seem to find. There's a picture somewhere of this massive wave and all these little triathletes looking up at it, and that's that year. And it's just like a 10-foot, I want to say it's probably a 30-foot face on this wave. Probably could have been surfed at Mavericks up north, but yeah, it was a brutal year.
That year was
brutal. You got to be prepared for it, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you know how to dive under those waves and you're confident in the ocean, you know how to approach that entry, how to approach that exit. The waves could be 30 feet tall. You know how to get through them, right?
Yes.
They could be 30 feet or 1 foot. You're comfortable getting through them.
Yes. And the key thing is you don't want to be surprised.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you exit, you swim as far as you can. When your hand touches the bottom, you stand up, you start running towards T1.
And then you move your ass through transition, and you go win the race. So I think we had a lot of detail there.
That was a lot
of detail. Everybody's waiting for us to get our swim video analysis. Are we ready for that?
We can do a little analysis. Go ahead.
Did you watch the Tour de France?
I watched a lot of the first half of it.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't make a difference how much you watch. Those guys are on top of their nutrition.
It's
not about the in the moment nutrition, right? They have a thing on their top tube that tells them exactly when they're taking their gels, and they have 4 gels in the first hour plus a bottle of electrolytes, right? And then they have 4 gels, and they stay on it to a T. Boom, 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 and they're not taking those initial calories, those initial electrolytes for that moment. They're taking it for 5 hours in. That's what's going to be called on 5 hours in.
Right.
And I always stress to my athletes, go to Precision Hydration, fill out their nutrition planner, and figure out how many grams of carbohydrates, how many milligrams of electrolytes you need per hour. So you know, hey, that first hour of the bike, I know I need 90 grams of carbohydrates. I need 1,500 milligrams of electrolytes. Because if I take it then, I know hour 5 on the bike, I'm still going to be riding strong. But if you just poo-poo it and say, I'll take a little of this and a little of that, maybe I'll take 1 gel an hour, and you forget about that, sure, in the moment you're going to be okay, but 5 hours down the road, 3 hours down the road, that's when you're going to start to falter.
And I think that we touched on this a bit in the last episode. I think this has a lot to do with the enhanced performances in the Tour this year.
Totally.
I think these athletes were finally getting nutrition dialed in way better than we ever have in the past.
Well, they've done so much research on the subject. These guys at Precision Hydration, Andy Blow and his team over there, Brad Williams, you spoke to him this morning.
Oh, yeah.
They've done so much research that actually a triathlon outlet put out something, and I didn't read it, but I think it was a negative thing about nutrition. And then I noticed this triathlon outlet actually took it down because I think our friends over Precision Hydration, I don't know if this is the deal, might have called and said, hey, that's not correct. We've done all the research in the world. What you said isn't wrong. Take that down. And now it's not there anymore. So I can't find it.
Are you creating fake news with real news?
Fake news, baby. I'm coming to my own conclusions. But what I'm saying is get your calories in early and often, not for the moment, for what's going to happen 3, 4, 5 hours down the line, and stick to those calories. Fill out that Precision Hydration nutrition planner. We have the link in the bio. Click through that link. You'll get 15% off, but know what you specifically need for the race because we do all this training. You don't want to show up the race day and, falter because you didn't do the right homework, which is the theme of this episode.
Yep, and we have the access to much better science now than we did even last year.
That's right.
Needless to say, several years
And I'm the host. I make up what I want. Right? I can say whatever I want on this show. All right, let's do some swim video analysis before we get to the workout of the episode, Jer. Who do we have today?
Well, let's switch over from you and I to the screen.
There's Randy.
Well, you tell me.
This is Randy Evans. She's one of my elite athletes who lives on the East Coast. She is a college swimmer. She swam her whole life. We are doing some major things in the bike and run. But we see her swimming here. She's swimming at about a 110 per 100-yard pace. Right, and she called me and sent me this video and called me, and she thought I was going to beat up on her for this video. But do you want to tell me what you're seeing here?
You keep talking. I'm sort of
So Randy called me and told me, okay, I want you to look at my swim, and please don't beat me up too much for having no kick. Every swim coach I've had in the past has always beat me up for my lack of power in my kick. And can I tell you what I told her? Or do you want to go off?
No, you go for it.
I told her
I'm watching her swim.
What I see is a beautiful kick right here. We're endurance sport athletes. Our races are 1,500 meters, 2,000 meters, 4,000 meters. Randy's doing a ton of half Ironmans this year. She's kicking ass across the board. Like I said, we've made some huge improvements in the run. But this is an endurance swimmer's kick right here because it's not about the power of the kick. And she's swimming 110 pace. This is her moderate effort. This is not hard, not easy. It's the timing of the kick. It's when she's kicking. And you can't see underwater, but you see a nice little splash. As she pulls that right arm, she sees that right leg kick. As she pulls the left arm, you see the left leg splash. And that's what's important. It's like a baseball player taking a little step before they swing, or a boxer taking a little step before he jabs. It's not about the power of that step. It's about the connection that step creates with the rest of the body. And that's what Randy's doing here with her kick. She has that little kick, not overly powerful, saving energy for the bike and the run, but the timing of the kick is what's important. It's allowing her to get more torque into that pull.
So I've just freezed the video, and I am going to take a tool and head, hips, feet at the surface.
Head, hips, feet at the surface.
3 touch points at the surface, nailing it down. The most important thing in swimming, which is overcoming resistance. So this is really well done.
Hydrodynamic.
It helps quite a bit. So this is good, what Randy has done here.
And all I do is side view. We don't have the underwater view.
Right.
But
So my comments to help Randy, which she did in the beginning here, and then a bit on the second length, you will notice here's a left breath, and then no breath, no breath, and then a right breath. So she's breathing bilaterally every third stroke. That is a no-no. It's great for warming up, but we want to have our athletes breathing every 2 strokes, right? Always every, have her pick a side, breathe every right side, one length. You can breathe every left side on the other length for balance, but don't. Remember, on your main sets in swimming, guys, you want to practice what you're going to do on race day. And so we always want to be breathing every second stroke, 2 strokes. You take all the precision hydration in the world, but if you don't have oxygen or if you're starving yourself of it, performance is going to depreciate. So I'd have Randy become more familiar with breathing every 2 strokes. I also asked you, and I saw this for the first time, Jim, as you could recall on our 2 p.m. call, that I asked you how tall Randy was, and you said she's not very tall, right?
Not very tall, right?
Yeah, so she's a fire plug. I mean, she is built solid. She'd be great in open water.
Yeah.
Because she can have high cadence. I suspect if we had her going here at race pace, I would suspect her cadence is going to be in the 80s, is my guess. She swims well. There's nothing to do with her kick. It's beautiful. It's soft. It's gentle. It's not costing her anything.
Yeah.
We
can,
and
you know, I want to show something else here. Can you pause on the recovery right there? Anywhere, just press play and then pause on the recovery. If you watch, another thing Randy made a point to me, he said, "Oh, my recovery is low." Right, but the way she's recovering her arm into the water is perfect, right? Because we watched the sighting video 2 episodes ago, and we saw some of your athletes up in Santa Barbara. As they entered the water, they were creating this huge splash there. You see how Randy's elbow is above the fingertips, and the fingertips are entering nice and clean? Yep. That's what we want to shoot for. It doesn't have to be a huge open armpit recovery. There you go, elbow up, fingertips in, and boom, quiet entry, nice and hydrodynamic. You see a lot of athletes, especially adult onset swimmers, slam that elbow down and then the fingertips in. It causes this huge splash. Not only does that put on the brakes every stroke, it also makes sighting a ton harder, as we saw 2 episodes ago, because the water's splashing back in your face as you sight. You're fighting not only the chop, you're fighting the glare, you're fighting the splash that you're creating coming back into your face. So we want to get that entry clean, so you're hydrodynamic, you're not putting on the brakes, but also so you have an easier time sighting.
Yeah, no, this is good swimming. And her timing of her breath is good. Overall, it's really good. Other than I would just have her work a little bit on learning to become super comfortable breathing every 2 strokes.
And her old man are racing tomorrow, so we expect 2 first place. How about this? These 2, Connor and Randy, are racing tomorrow. I think we're going to get a double top finish overall. I think we have husband and wife combo overall finish tomorrow at the half Ironman out in I forget the name of it. The East Coast half Ironman. It's not an Ironman event, but it's a half distance. Yeah.
Who's going to clean up?
I'm calling it. I think we have a husband and wife duo taking the top spots.
Wow.
I'm calling it. I think we got it, Jer.
All
right. So we got to work out of the episode today. Remember, send your videos, GERRY@tower26.com. Keep them coming in. Thanks for sending that in, Randy. But GERRY@tower26.com.
And we've gotten some videos, Jim. I've chosen not to present them here. And here's why, guys. When you send your videos in, you must send them in at race effort. I've gotten some videos at slow effort where the folks, 2 or 3 of them, are swimming so slowly because they're trying to look pretty, all right? I suspect that's what they're doing. You're trying to look good and elegant, no splash, the things you're talking about, and nice long strokes and so on. But it's not what you do on event day. So you don't want to get analyzed in something that you don't do on event day.
Yeah,
so
we see that all the time.
Swim at race effort. Breathe how you breathe on race day. Do everything. Don't change anything. Just send us race effort.
That's it. All right, so we got to work out an episode. Coaching.tower26.com. We're in our race ready phase, so you're going to see a lot of dynamics that you see in the open water built into these workouts. Coaching.tower26.com.
Yeah, and you'll notice at the top of this, you got that little bar over here on the left side. You got a little arrow. That's our audio file. Tells you a little overview of what's going on in this workout. So the pulling segment was all just about warming up. But Jim, during this phase, this is why we use I should have brought the buoy as a prop for us, but why we use these particular buoys, that Ini buoy. We had this pulling segment warm up in 3 segments. The first portion was with an empty buoy. The second segment, we filled one chamber. And the third segment, we filled both chambers, which means we're filling them with water. They become heavily weighted. You have to have a higher cadence and a good purchase on the water. Otherwise, you will sink to the bottom of the pool with your hips and your feet, right?
Yeah.
So it's the reason we use these buoys in particular during this season. You need more power, more strength for open water than you do in the pool. The sport of open water swimming or triathlon swimming has a higher demand for core strength and power. So that's what that pool segment was about. Here was this main set. And I'll blow this up slightly
here. Oh, it's
here.
a fun one. This is one of my favorite main sets right here.
And this were for more elite swimmers. They went 1050s, some others went 850s, some went 650s. But the point is they're 50s.
It's 10 by 50 at 90%, about 20 seconds rest after each.
Yeah, so there wasn't a ton of rest. And we were elevating output to upper aerobic effort, right? Taking 20 seconds rest-ish or so between each one, 30 max. And we took a minute break after that, Jim. These are all close to race takeout effort, right? A little below race takeout effort, but high performance. And then we did an approximate 6-7 minute swim after, continuous, but we did this in a pace line. So yourself and me and one other athlete, the three of us would push off one behind each other. You would lead out. The effort we were using on this was only at 80%. You would lead out. I would draft on your feet, and somebody would draft in mine. And you would lead for a 100, and then you'd pull over, and then I would take the lead. Mm-hmm. You'd go to the back of the line, right?
And that's at 80%. You're not trying to drop the people on your feet. You're just practicing sighting in a controlled environment at a moderate effort.
Exactly. And we were sighting 1 to 2 times per 25 on these as the leader, and the draftee only 1 time per 25. And the key here is you're looking for elegant and fluid sighting, really keeping it comfortable, gentle, nailing down the mechanics of sighting, right? Yeah. Lift, look, and breathe, while staying connected. You've got to stay on the toes of the person in front of you. So we did that, and then we repeated this set, so 2.5 times through. It was the 50s, and then the longer, slightly easier effort pace lining with sighting, and we did that again and again, 2.5 times through, and then we wrapped up the workout with some pulling at the end.
Yeah, just in each round we added a variable, right? So we added some deck ups with the sighting in the 50s, and then kind of did the same thing on the last one.
The last round
100s, yeah.
Well, we had that 100s at the very end there as a aerobic thing, but so we're getting to the 50s, we did one of the rounds with deck ups. So you hit the wall and you had to stand up.
That's the part that I love to coach. I love to see these guys get up on the deck just huffing and puffing and say, do it again, do it again, do it again.
And initially, this is a challenge. We can go back to this. Initially, this is a challenging session, which is why we do these sessions constantly every single week during this phase.
Yeah.
Because we need adaptation. You show up to race day, you don't do any of this. You go from swimming, all those details we talked about in the swim, and you stand up to run the transition. You see it all the time. Guys are hunched over like this running, or they almost can't run because your heart rate's blown up.
Transition's free time. You got to make the most of it.
Yep.
All right, beautiful. Go to coaching.tower26.com for all those workouts to follow along with all these race-ready workouts we are doing at the pool in Southern California. What are we going to talk about next episode, Jer?
So we have a potpourri of questions that we haven't gotten to, and I think we should start answering those, and that may take up quite a bit of time. But there are quite a few questions that have come in, and I think they're quite good, Jim. So let's give some answers to those, and because they provide good education, and you guys, feel free to send in your questions also. I want to make sure we get to them. And
if you're watching this on YouTube, write the questions in the comments. We'll get to those.
Yeah.
Email Gerry, Gerry @tower26.com.
And by the way, who was it? Somebody responded in on the last episode about the Ironman.
We're going to talk about that,
right? Which we haven't gotten to.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff we have to talk about. They're starting to have the first Ironman races coming out now. There's some half Ironman races under this new qualification, so we'll talk about that too. So, Gerry, it's always a pleasure, buddy. Thank you for all the info.
Yep.
Hopefully, you guys have learned a lot from all the detail we went into. We know it's a lot of detail and might be monotonous after times, but this is the important stuff, guys. This is the homework you have to do if you want to have maximum performance on race day. So we appreciate you guys hanging in there. We appreciate you guys following along and ask questions. Leave the comments. Write Gerry. Write me. Leave the questions so we can get to those things that are on your mind on the next podcast. So thanks once again, Gerry.
Always
a pleasure. I'm going to Mexico next week, so don't bother me.
Enjoy, buddy.
All right. For Gerry Rodriguez, this is Jim Lubinsky.